Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a good day. In this video we're going to go through two of the examples on your notes, and then when you get to class we'll be able to just finish up a couple examples and then you'll be able to start practicing these types of problems and working on the homework. So the target for this lesson is to write polynomial functions, so you can go ahead and write that down on your note sheet there, and then we'll start talking about how to do these problems. And you've done this to some capacity before. I've given you zeros or solutions or x-intercepts, and you've used that to write the equation. Last week we worked with complex zeros, so if you had something like x equals 5i, we were able to take that, make it plus minus 5i, come up with the factor. Today what we'll be doing is working with polynomial functions where I give you the different x-intercepts. So those would be the solutions or the zeros or the roots, and then I will also give you another point that would be on that graph, and we'll use that to help us write the equation. And one thing we'll kind of do at the end is just check the end behavior to make sure if we get a positive leading coefficient, the graph is going in the correct direction, and same with a negative leading coefficient. Okay, so number one, it says write the cubic function in standard form whose graph is shown. So standard form means eventually we're going to want to multiply this all out and have it in standard form, which for a cubic function would be something like ax squared plus bx, or sorry, ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d. So the first thing we want to look for here are the x-intercepts of the graph, which happens at negative 4, 0, 1, 0, and then 3, 0. So I'll start off by writing f of x, which is just our function, equals, I'm going to leave a little bit of space here and you'll see why in a second, and we're going to take each of these zeros. So if negative 4 was a solution, negative 4 is our 0, that would have come from a factor of x plus 4. Then if I look at the positive 1, that would come from a solution of x minus 1, and then the positive 3 would come from a solution of x minus 3. Now, we also have one more point that we're going to need to deal with, which they give us is 0, negative 6, and that'll come in at the very end here, and it's going to come from an a value in front that we'll have to figure out what that's going to be. Now, before we do that, the first thing that we're going to find, or the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take these factors, multiply them all out to get it in standard form. So I'll take the x plus 4 and the x minus 1, and you would get x squared plus 4x minus x minus 4. Combine like terms, x squared plus 3x minus 4. So that came from those first two factors right there. Then we'll take this and multiply it by that third factor of x minus 3. If we distribute the x in, we would get x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x. And then we'll take the negative 3, distribute that in, and we get negative 3x squared minus 9x plus 12. Okay, so we'll combine like terms here and get x cubed. The x squareds actually cancel out here. That won't always happen. Negative 4x minus 9x is negative 13x. And then plus 12. Now, going back to what we had at the beginning here, I'm going to copy down that f of x equals, and then we still have an a value that we need to figure out what that is. And so I'm going to put that in the front, and this is all still in parentheses. Now, we'll take this other point that we had here, which was 0, negative 6. And what that means is if I were to substitute 0 into the equation, I would want a y value of negative 6. So we'll be able to take this, and in f of x we're going to put negative 6. Remember that f of x is really just the same thing as my y value, equals a. And then we'll substitute 0 in for x, and this works out kind of nicely because you get 0 cubed minus 13 times 0 plus 12 from putting that 0 in for both of the x's. And so then when we do a little bit of arithmetic work here, we get negative 6 equals a, 0 cubed is 0, 13 times 0 is 0, plus 12 would be 12. Divide both sides by 12, and you get negative 6 over 12, which reduces to negative 1/2. We're almost done. What we can do now is we can take that negative 1/2 and substitute it back into our function for a. So we would have f of x equals negative 1/2 x cubed minus 13x plus 12. Okay, and again, standard form, we don't want parentheses, so we do need to distribute that negative 1/2 in. And we'll distribute it into all parts there, so all three terms. And we are going to have a couple fractions in our answer, which is fine. So our final answer here will be f of x equals negative 1/2 x cubed. Negative 1/2 times negative 13 would become positive 13 over 2x. And then negative 1/2 times 12 would become negative 6. And that is going to be our final answer for this problem. Now, at the beginning here, I said one thing that you can check is your end behavior based on the sign of the leading coefficient. So if we look here, we got an a value that was negative. So our leading coefficient in the problem ended up being a negative 1/2. Now, if we go back and just look at our graph quickly, this was a cubic function. It was an odd degree, and remember, odd degree means the graph will start and end in opposite directions, which it does. The graph started up here, and it ended down here. For a negative leading coefficient, that's exactly what we want to have happen. We want that graph ending in a negative direction, which means it would have to start on the left-hand side of going up to positive infinity. So that's kind of just a nice check there that, yes, we did want to end up with a negative 1/2 for our leading coefficient, or really any negative number, and that would work specifically in this problem. Okay, so let's take a look at question number 3. Go ahead and skip number 2. I want to do that one with you in class. But for number 3, same kind of directions here. They just don't give us the graph, they give us the points. Now, one thing we want to be careful with is which ones are our x-intercepts and what's our y-intercept. So if you look here, that would be a point on the x-axis. This 0, negative 12 is actually going to be a y-intercept, and that'll be the point that we use at the very end to find the a value. 2, 0 would be a point on the x-axis, and 3, 0 would be a point on the x-axis. So we'll start the same way we did before. So f of x equals, we'll put some a value there. We'll have to figure out what that is. And then looking at each of my x-intercepts are 0. Negative 1 would give me a factor of x plus 1. 2, 0 would give me a factor of x minus 2. And then 3, 0 would give me a factor of x minus 3. Okay, why don't you go ahead and pause the video, and then what I want you to do is work on multiplying those 3 factors together. Okay, so pause the video, multiply those 3 together, and then press play when you're ready to check your answer. Here's what you should have gotten when you multiplied those 3 factors together, just so you can kind of see what I did based on the colors. In red, I took the x plus 1 and the x minus 2, multiplied those together. Then in the green, I took the x minus 3, distributed that all in, and then in the orange, there is what you should have gotten when you combined the like terms. So what we need to do now is, I'm first going to put that in parentheses with that a value in front, and then f of x equals. Now, this is where we'll take that 4th point that we haven't used yet, which was the y-intercept. It's not a solution, it's just going to be a point that helps us to find the a value. So we'll take 0, negative 12, and we'll put negative 12 in for the y value, equals a, and we'll put 0 in for the x value. And again, this works out very nicely here because you get negative 12 equals a, and then what's in the parentheses, you get 0 here, 0 here, 0 here, so plus 6 is just 6. Divide both sides by 6, you would get a equals negative 2. Now, for the final step here, we're going to take f of x equals, I'm looking at this part right here, so we now know our a value is negative 2, and then x cubed minus 4x squared plus x plus 6. Now what I want you to do, and I'm going to stop the video here, I want you to go ahead, take this -2, distribute it into everything, and you come up with what the final answer to this would be. And once you come up with the answer, I want you to go back to my website, go to the form. It's very similar to what you submitted for the last video. I did ask you to, for this one, write a couple of sentences explaining kind of the method in solving these problems. And then this answer that you got for question number 3, I want you to upload as well once you take that -2 and distribute it in. And I wrote a little note there about how to write the exponents in. So make sure you submit that form. You'll get credit for watching this, and then I will see you in class.